In the event of a nuclear fallout, preparedness and location are critical factors that can significantly influence survival. A nuclear fallout refers to the radioactive debris and particles that descend to Earth following a nuclear explosion. This deadly aftermath can pose severe health risks and environmental hazards, making it essential to understand how different regions might fare in such a crisis. State-specific preparations are crucial because each state has unique vulnerabilities and strengths. Factors such as population density, proximity to military targets, availability of fallout shelters, infrastructure resilience, and emergency preparedness planning all play vital roles in determining the relative safety of a region during a fallout. For instance, states with high population densities may face more significant challenges in evacuation and sheltering, while those near military installations might be at higher risk of direct impact and subsequent fallout. The purpose of this video is to explore and rank the 12 worst US states to be in when a fallout happens. By examining these criteria, we can provide valuable insights into which states might struggle the most in mitigating the effects of a nuclear fallout. Understanding these risks is essential for enhancing preparedness and implementing effective survival strategies. 12. Missouri ranks as one of the worst states to be in during a nuclear fallout due to several critical factors. The state is home to significant urban population centers, such as Louis and Kansas City, which are densely populated and could face severe challenges in terms of evacuation, sheltering large numbers of residents. The concentration of people in these areas would make it difficult to manage the influx of those seeking safety and medical attention, exacerbating the potential chaos and strain on resources. Additionally, Missouri's position along seismic fault lines adds another layer of vulnerability. The New Madrid seismic zone, located in the southeastern part of the state, is one of the most active seismic areas in the United States. An earthquake during or after a nuclear fallout could further compromise already strained infrastructure, making it even harder to deliver essential services and maintain order. Moreover, limited state-level preparedness initiatives heighten Missouri's risk profile. The state's emergency response plans may not be robust enough to handle the multifaceted crisis of a nuclear fallout, from immediate impact to long-term recovery. These compounded risks make Missouri a particularly precarious place to be in the unfortunate event of a nuclear disaster. 11. Virginia. Virginia is a particularly vulnerable state during a nuclear fallout due to its high population density, especially in Northern Virginia, and its proximity to Washington, D.C. The densely populated areas in Northern Virginia would face significant challenges in terms of evacuation and sheltering, creating a potential for widespread chaos and strain on emergency resources. Adding to the risk, Virginia's close proximity to the nation's capital makes it susceptible to the fallout from potential attacks targeting Washington, D.C., a prime target in any nuclear conflict. Furthermore, the state hosts several important military installations, increasing its likelihood of being directly impacted by a nuclear strike. These combined factors, high population density, strategic geographical location, and the presence of critical military targets, make Virginia one of the worst states to be in during a nuclear fallout, as it would struggle significantly with both immediate and long-term recovery efforts. 10. Washington. Washington state is particularly at risk during a nuclear fallout for several reasons, making it one of the worst states to be in during such a crisis. One of the primary concerns is Seattle, a major urban center that would likely be a significant target due to its dense population and economic importance. The sheer number of people in Seattle would complicate evacuation efforts and strain emergency services, leading to potential chaos and substantial loss of life. Additionally, Washington's proximity to several key military installations, including Joint Base Lewis-McChord, further elevates its risk profile. These bases could be prime targets in a nuclear conflict, increasing the likelihood of direct impacts and subsequent fallout in the surrounding areas. Boston State's strategic military significance makes it a potential hotspot for nuclear strikes, compounding the dangers faced by its residents. Moreover, Washington is located in an earthquake-prone region, with the Cascadia subduction zone posing a significant seismic threat. An earthquake occurring simultaneously with or following a nuclear fallout would severely undermine infrastructure resilience and emergency response capabilities. The combination of these factors, major urban targets, critical military installations, and seismic vulnerability, renders Washington state a perilous place to be during a nuclear fallout, posing severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery. 9. Georgia. Georgia faces significant risks in the event of a nuclear fallout, placing it among the worst states to be during such a crisis. The state is home to Atlanta, a major metropolitan area with a high population density. This concentration of people would create substantial challenges in terms of evacuation and sheltering, stretching emergency services thin and potentially leading to widespread confusion and panic. Compounding this issue is the presence of several important military bases throughout Georgia, including Fort Benning, Fort Stewart, and Robins Air Force Base. These installations would likely be targeted in a nuclear conflict, increasing the risk of direct impacts and severe fallout in the surrounding regions. The strategic significance of these military sites makes Georgia a high-risk area for nuclear strikes, further endangering its residents. Moreover, Georgia has a limited number of fallout shelters, which exacerbates the state's vulnerability. Without adequate sheltering options, a large portion of the population would be exposed to harmful radiation, resulting in significant health hazards. The combination of a densely populated major city, critical military targets, and insufficient fallout shelters places Georgia in a precarious position during a nuclear fallout, making it one of the most dangerous states for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. Ohio is particularly vulnerable during a nuclear fallout, making it one of the worst states to be in under such circumstances. The state is characterized by dense urban populations, with major cities like Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati housing significant numbers of residents. This high population density would complicate evacuation efforts and strain emergency services, creating potentially chaotic and hazardous conditions for those seeking safety. Additionally, Ohio is home to several strategic industrial targets. The state's robust manufacturing sector, which includes critical infrastructure and defense-related industries, could make it a prime target during a nuclear conflict. These industrial sites are integral to both the local and national economy, and their destruction would not only lead to immediate fallout, but also long-term economic repercussions. Moreover, Ohio suffers from limited fallout planning, which further exacerbates its vulnerability. The state's existing emergency preparedness measures may not be sufficient to handle the multifaceted challenges posed by a nuclear fallout. Without comprehensive fallout planning and readily available shelters, the population would be at a heightened risk of radiation exposure and other fallout-related hazards. The combination of dense urban populations, strategic industrial targets, and inadequate fallout planning places Ohio in a perilous position during a nuclear fallout, presenting severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery. 7. New Jersey. New Jersey's proximity to New York City, one of the world's most significant urban centers, makes it highly vulnerable during a nuclear fallout. In the event of a nuclear attack on New York City, the fallout would likely affect New Jersey due to its close location. This geographic risk is compounded by New Jersey's own high population density, particularly in areas like Newark and Jersey City, which rank among the most densely populated regions in the United States. The sheer volume of people concentrated in relatively small areas would create immense challenges for evacuation and sheltering. The state's infrastructure would be overwhelmed as residents seek safety, stretching emergency services to their limits. This scenario could lead to widespread panic and inefficiencies in managing public safety during such a critical time. Moreover, New Jersey has limited urgency preparedness specifically focused on nuclear fallout scenarios. While the state has general emergency plans, the specific provisions for fallout shelters and radiation protection may not be as robust as required. This lack of targeted preparedness further heightens the risk, leaving the population more exposed to potential harm. A combination of its proximity to a major target, extremely high population density, and insufficient emergency preparedness makes New Jersey one of the most dangerous states to be in during a nuclear fallout, posing severe risks to both immediate and long-term safety of its residents. Pennsylvania is particularly at risk during a nuclear fallout, placing it among the worst states to be in under such dire circumstances. One of the primary concerns is the state's high population centers, most notably Philadelphia. As one of the largest cities in the United States, Philadelphia's dense population would create significant challenges for evacuation and sheltering, overwhelming emergency services and infrastructure. Additionally, Pennsylvania's proximity to New York City exacerbates its vulnerability. In the event of a nuclear attack on New York, Pennsylvania could be affected by the fallout due to prevailing winds and geographic closeness. This risk extends beyond immediate fallout exposure, potentially impacting Pennsylvania's air quality, water supplies, and overall public health. Moreover, Pennsylvania has limited emergency resources, specifically tailored to managing nuclear fallout scenarios. While the state has general emergency preparedness plans, the provisions for fallout shelters and radiation protection might not be sufficient to handle a large-scale nuclear event. This lack of targeted resources leaves the population more exposed and vulnerable during a nuclear crisis. The combination of densely populated urban centers, geographic proximity to a major potential target, and inadequate emergency resources makes Pennsylvania one of the most perilous states to be in during a nuclear fallout, posing severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. Illinois is particularly vulnerable during a nuclear fallout, making it one of the worst states to be in under such circumstances. A key factor contributing to this risk is Chicago, which stands as a primary target due to its status as a major metropolitan hub with significant economic and strategic importance. The city's dense population would present severe challenges in terms of evacuation and sheltering, likely overwhelming emergency services and infrastructure. The high population density in Illinois, especially in and around Chicago, further exacerbates the risks associated with a nuclear fallout. The concentration of people in such a densely packed area would complicate efforts to move residents to safety, creating potential bottlenecks and increasing the likelihood of chaos and panic. That this situation would stretch emergency resources to their limits, making effective response and recovery even more difficult. Moreover, Illinois has limited availability of fallout shelters, which compounds the state's vulnerability. Without sufficient shelter options, a large portion of the population could be exposed to harmful radiation, leading to significant health risks. The scarcity of adequate sheltering further diminishes the state's ability to protect its residents effectively during a nuclear event. The combination of Chicago being a primary target, high population density, and limited shelter availability makes Illinois one of the most dangerous states to be in during a nuclear fallout, posing severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. 4. Florida's unique geographic and demographic characteristics make it one of the worst states to be in during a nuclear fallout. The state's extensive coastline exposes it to significant vulnerabilities, including potential impacts from both nuclear strikes and subsequent fallout. Coastal areas are particularly susceptible to wind-borne radiation, which can spread contaminants over large distances, exacerbating the dangers posed by a nuclear event. Moreover, Florida is home to several highly populated urban areas such as Miami, Orlando, and Tampa. These cities' dense populations would present substantial challenges for evacuation and sheltering, overwhelming emergency services and infrastructure. The concentration of people in these urban centers would likely lead to chaos and inefficiencies during an emergency response, increasing the risk of exposure and harm. Florida's limited evacuation routes further compound the state's vulnerability during a nuclear fallout. The state's geography, characterized by peninsulas and limited northbound routes, creates bottlenecks that could impede swift evacuation efforts. During a crisis, these limitations could result in significant delays and congestion, leaving many residents stranded in high-risk areas. The combination of coastal vulnerability, densely populated urban centers, and restricted evacuation routes makes Florida one of the most dangerous states to be in during a nuclear fallout, posing severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. 3W, Texas. Texas ranks as one of the worst states to be in during a nuclear fallout due to several critical factors. The state is home to densely populated urban areas such as Houston and Dallas. These major cities, with their significant population densities, would face immense challenges in terms of evacuation and sheltering. The sheer number of residents needing to find safe haven would overwhelm emergency services and infrastructure, leading to potential chaos and inefficiencies in disaster response. Moreover, Texas hosts key military installations, including Fort Hood, Lackland Air Force Base, and Fort Bliss. These sites are of strategic importance and could be prime targets during a nuclear conflict. The presence of these military bases increases the likelihood of direct impacts and subsequent fallout, further endangering the surrounding civilian populations. In addition to these risks, Texas has been criticized for its inadequate emergency preparedness, specifically tailored to nuclear fallout scenarios. While the state has general emergency plans, the specific provisions for fallout shelters and radiation protection may not be sufficient to handle the scale of a nuclear event. This lack of targeted preparedness leaves the population more exposed to potential harm. The combination of densely populated urban centers, key military installations, and inadequate emergency preparedness makes Texas one of the most perilous states to be in during a nuclear fallout, posing severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. To California. California is particularly endangered during a nuclear fallout, making it one of the worst states to be in under such circumstances. The state's high population density, especially in major urban centers like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego, would create significant challenges in terms of evacuation and sheltering. The sheer volume of people concentrated in these areas would overwhelm emergency services and infrastructure, leading to chaos and inefficiencies in disaster response efforts. In addition to its dense population, California is home to several strategic military locations, including Naval Base San Diego, Edwards Air Force Base, and Vandenberg Space Force Base. These sites of strategic importance could be prime targets during a nuclear conflict, increasing the likelihood of direct impacts and subsequent fallout. The presence of these military installations heightens the risk for surrounding civilian populations, compounding the dangers posed by a nuclear event. Furthermore, California's infrastructure is particularly vulnerable due to its earthquake-prone nature. The constant threat of seismic activity means that many buildings and facilities may not be adequately prepared to withstand the combined effects of an earthquake and nuclear fallout. This dual vulnerability increases the risk of widespread structural damage and complicates emergency response and recovery efforts. The combination of high population density, strategic military locations, and earthquake-prone infrastructure makes California exceptionally dangerous during a nuclear fallout, presenting severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. Now, New York is the most perilous state to be in during a nuclear fallout, primarily due to its high population density and the major urban target of New York City. As one of the most densely populated states in the country, New York faces immense challenges in terms of evacuation and sheltering. The concentration of people, especially in metropolitan areas like New York City, would overwhelm emergency services and infrastructure, leading to potential chaos and inefficiencies in disaster response. New York City, being a significant economic and cultural hub, would likely be a primary target in a nuclear conflict. The city's global importance makes it a strategic point for attacks, increasing the likelihood of direct impacts and severe fallout. The dense urban environment further complicates efforts to protect and evacuate residents, heightening the risk of exposure and harm. Moreover, New York has limited fallout shelters, exacerbating the state's vulnerability. The lack of adequate sheltering options means that a large portion of the population could be exposed to harmful radiation, leading to significant health risks. This scarcity of fallout shelters diminishes the state's ability to effectively safeguard its residents during a nuclear event. The combination of high population density, the major urban target of New York City, and limited fallout shelters makes New York the most dangerous state to be in during a nuclear fallout, posing severe challenges for both immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts. In conclusion, the analysis highlights the states of New York, California, Texas, and Florida as the most perilous locations to be in during a nuclear fallout. The contributing factors include high population densities, the presence of strategic military installations, and inadequate emergency preparedness plans. These factors create severe challenges for immediate survival and long-term recovery efforts in the unfortunate event of a nuclear incident. What are your thoughts on the preparedness of your state for a nuclear fallout? Do you feel that there are adequate measures in place to ensure your safety? Let us know in the comments below. Yeah, and if you found this information valuable, please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content.